up to Mauryan period. Is it clear how the history is moving? Sanju, do you have any doubts up to now? Daily I am sending you the questions. Are you writing any question? Sanju, Ayan, so far could you write some questions? Okay. So next time when you come to the class, you show me those questions. Sanju, are you practicing? Are you able to hear me? Is it all right at your end, Sanju? Are you able to hear my voice without any break? Okay, then let's start post-Mauryan period. Hereafter, it's going to be just a continuation of whatever we were studying earlier. Only some new elements will keep coming. Otherwise, same story continues. Please draw India map. Now it is not single empire. Multiple kingdoms we are going to see during this period. Post-Mauryan period means 200 BC to 300 AD. So almost 500 years. For 500 years, different types of developments. Yesterday we have seen that when it comes to geographic location also, so many developments are going on in Central Asia, West Asia, and in our northwestern part of India, it is very sensitive, and it is the place where different type of cultures come and meet. And naturally, whatever developments that are taking place in this part is going to affect the Indian subcontinent. At this point of time, now you mention some of the cities. By this time period, Pataliputra, Ujjayan, then Python, Pratishtana or Python, Amaravati. When it comes to this location, Madurai, and some ports also developed during this time period. Broch, Sopara, Mujiris, Korkai, Kaveri Patnam, Masuli Patam, and here Tamluk or Tamralipti. When it comes to here, Takshila, Purushpur, Sagala is also called modern day Sialkot. Sialkot. And in between here, Madura. At that point of time, these are the major cities. And here in Gujarat, Girnar, you mentioned. In Orissa, Hathi Gumpa. This you mentioned. And these are the all areas, different areas associated with historical developments. And when it comes to here, Parthians. And when it comes to here, this area, Indo-Greeks, and here, Shakas, Kushanas in the initial phase. Later, they are going to come. And here, Romans. Romans. In this way, area connected. In this way also, it is connected. In this way also, land route as well as sea route also, it is connected. The Uttarapada, Dakshinapada. So by this time period, already we have seen in Mauryan time period that almost entire Indian subcontinent came under single authority during Mauryan time period. If you want to rule this much land, communication system has to be strong. Hence, Mauryans, they utilized the existing routes and improved the roads also. And by this time period, post-Mauryan time period, the connection between North India and South India, the connectivity is well established. And these well established communication networks are going to help the continuous interaction between both parts of India, north and south also, north and northwest, every part of India. Now you are going to see a unique development of Indian culture by Mauryan time period itself emerged. Now it is going to strengthen further during Mauryan time, post-Mauryan period. Written up to here? Ayan, Sanju? Okay. Sanju, have written? Sanju, I am not able to hear your voice. Can you type? All right. Now, when we are connected, naturally outside world is keep on observing. We have seen in Alexander time period also. Alexander himself has learned or listened about India so many stories, fabulous stories that inspired him to reach. Now this connectivity after Mauryan time period, Chandragupta Maurya had connections with Seleucus Nicator. Then Ashoka sent ambassadors to Western world. The interaction between India and Western world also very active. And it created even more interest in the Western world to know more about India. Therefore, in post-Mauryan period, many Roman authors, up to now, we call the Greek authors, because Greek people were strong up to this point of time. Later, Greeks are going to be overshadowed by Romans. When Romans are going to overshadow, are going to take over these lands, again during Roman Empire, the authors are going to write more about India. That's why we call the foreign literature as a source of Indian history means Greco-Roman accounts. That particular term we use because it is a combination of Greek authors as well as Roman authors. Combinedly, whatever Greeks left, the Romans continued from there onwards. And in fact, they are going to use the Megasthenes accounts. Megasthenes has written Indica, that is going to serve. Even though Megasthenes' original account lost, still whatever he has written in his book survived in the words of other authors. Who are these authors? Roman authors and Greek authors. That is why we call Greco-Roman authors. Now, to understand this, we need to know some people. Based on these people, we come to the conclusion that what type of sources are available. Well, first of all, when we start any history chapter, we have to know about what are the sources to understand this particular chapter, this particular period. Now we are going to learn about many different people. Please make another India map. Here we are going to, in this location, in this map we have seen the places. Now we are going to see the people, in which location, which type of people, who are the people living and what was their contribution. People. In this location, Shungas are about to emerge, and these Shungas, Chandragupta Maurya, Bindusara, Ashoka. The last ruler is Brihadrada. Brihadrada was killed by Pushyamitra Shunga. Pushyamitra Shunga. And these people, Mauryans, and he started Shunga dynasty. Pushyamitra Shunga, Agnimitra, Agnimitra, and Vasumitra. We know some of the people names of Shunga period, and these people were ruling one after the other. Now when it comes to timeline also, 185 BC, Mauryan Empire stopped, Shunga dynasty emerged, 75 BC. This was the timeline. 185 BC, up to here Mauryan dynasty was there, replaced by Shunga dynasty, continued up to 75 BC. Now we are reaching the 2nd century BC and 1st century BC. Shungas. And after Shungas, Kanva dynasty comes, Vasudeva, Kanva. He established the Kanva dynasty. After Shungas, Kanva dynasty established by Vasudeva Kanva. So Shungas and Kanvas in this location. Next, when it comes to these people, Greeks, here contemporaries to Shungas, Demetrius, after Menander. These are the people. And if we have some idea about Menander, somewhere 165 to 130 BC, for them you write Menander. Before that, Demetrius. There are so many rulers. Here those people who are important for our historical collaboration, we are mentioning them. Menander. And gradually, these Indo-Greeks are going to be replaced by Shakas, that we will see later. Next one. In this area, Kalinga, Kharavela. One problem about the timeline is we don't have exact timeline of these people. Only we say that 1st century BC, 2nd century BC or 1st century AD. Likewise only we used to mention Kharavela. At least you need to remember which dynasty. That is why we categorize this as post-Mauryan period. Even though you need not to worry about exactly which timeline, just if you have some idea that who are the contemporaries and in post-Mauryan period, what are the dynasties that were surviving. In this particular location, we know about one person called Kharavela. He belongs to Kalinga kingdom. Mega Vahana dynasty. And now when these many kingdoms are there, we are going to see the conflicts also between these two. After Shungas, Kanvas will come. After Kanvas, some other dynasty will come, Kalinga. And these people are, we don't have even exact timeline also. That's why it's very difficult that exact time period when he started his reign and when he ended his reign. Multiple versions are there. And also only resource to understand, for example, Kalinga is Hathigumpa inscription. Kharavela. So 1st century BC. 1st century BC means this is 2nd century BC. 100 BC means this is 2nd and this is 1st. Kharavela was ruling somewhere in the late 2nd and early 1st century BC. Now, when it comes to this, Satavahanas. Important rulers in Satavahanas like Satakarni, Gautami Putra. Satakarni is one person name and Gautami Putra Satakarni is another name. And in between there was one ruler called Hala. These are some of the names associated with the Shatavahana dynasty. After some time, these Greeks are going to be replaced by Shakas, and these Shakas are going to conquer these territories, and mainly they are going to reside in the western part. And here, known Shaka ruler was Rudradaman. First you mention these people name, then one by one. Shungas we will deal, then Shatavahanas we will deal. Likewise, we are going to deal one by one. Rudradaman. And here, Kushanas. And in fact, Kushanas are going to cover a lot of territory. Kushanas Kanishka. Just you need to just have some idea that during post-Mauryan period, these are various people in different geographic locations, they are ruling. Even though there is no centralized state, so many powerful rulers were ruling in their dominions. Generally, historians used to term, whenever this kind of disintegration takes place, historians used to refer that particular time period as Dark Age. And what is the meaning of Dark Age? Their main parameter to decide whether it is a glorious phase or a dark period based on the strong monarch. If there is single monarch, scholars assume that stability of the empire ensured, prosperity of the empire is ensured, progress in various dimensions like economy, polity, culture, in all the areas, progress is seen whenever there is a single monarch and a stable monarch for very long time. Whenever such things happen, for example, during Mauryan time period, Mauryans established very long reign and also pan-India empire almost. Later Gupta time period, again very large empires, they consider, scholars consider that is another golden period. Between Mauryans and Guptas, this period is considered as dark period because there is no single authority. But what is the real parameter to understand what is the dark period or the glorious period? Having a long monarch alone is not the only parameter. There are many areas like economy, political system, religious system, cultural system, and we have to compare even those parameters also whether to consider a particular period is golden period or not. At least this period is not dark age. We are going to write answers also for all these things one by one. Even though politically disintegrated, but in all the other areas like economy was flourishing, art and culture was flourishing, religion was flourishing, different kingdoms, they were ensuring welfare in their own dominion. That is why this cannot be termed as a dark period and we have to substantiate. While you are substantiating in the answer, you need to mention these people names and the region names. That is the reason why I am giving the regions, important towns of this period and also important people of this time period. Mentioned up to here? Noted down up to here? And now, deep down, we have Sangam kingdoms. Deep down, Sangam kingdoms. Chola, Chera, Pandya. You mentioned Chola, Chera, Pandya. So many kingdoms, so many people will come. And when it comes to one of the known king of early Cholas is Karikala. Karikala, so Sangam period, Shatavahanas, then Shakas, Shungas, Mahamegavahana, Kushanas, Greeks, these many people are there. In next slide, we are going to write what are the various sources to understand. Now, these are the people and the contemporaries, some of the writers who are flourishing in this time period, they recorded the developments and also archaeological survey. Both Indian literature, foreign literature, two sources, archaeological sources, another source. Up to here written. Next we are going to write the sources. Sources to study post-Mauryan period. Sanju and Ayan, shall I move to the next slide? Okay. Sources. Literary sources. Indian sources. Foreign sources. So first you give Indian sources, then we will keep writing foreign sources. Indian sources. This one we have to fill one table kind of format will come. Before filling it, let us see who are the authors. When it comes to literature, the people who are writing some kind of books on these people, and we have to mention there. During this time period, here Buddhism, Jainism, when it comes to 600 BC or 500 BC, and here Upanishads, Brahmanical texts or Vedic texts. Now 500 BC. Now we moved up to 185 BC, or let us consider by 100 BC. That means 400 years. In these 400 years, there is intense competition among these religions, and they were spreading. Buddhism is spreading to different countries. Sri Lanka also, Southeast Asia also, it is moving, and it is moving towards in all the direction. Jainism is also gaining ground. Even till deep south also, we are going to see the influence of Buddhism and Jainism. And Vedic religion is also not behind. For some time period during, when it comes to up to 500 BC, Vedic religion was very popular. And by 200 BC, patronage it lost. Buddhism and Jainism gained ground. So a little bit fallen. Now once again they are going to rise. They learned some good elements from Buddhism, Jainism also. They started modifying the Vedic religion also. They modified. Now Brahmanical religion or Vedic religion also gaining ground. It also spreaded in all the directions. When it comes to the language, Vedic religion language is Sanskrit. Buddhism and Jainism, Prakrit and Pali languages. Around this time period, when it comes to deep south, Tamil language also emerging. And in fact, Sangam texts were written in Tamil language. Sanskrit, Vedic religious people are writing their writings in Sanskrit. And in Sanskrit grammar related works and also Puranas. In post-Mauryan period, now Puranas are also started. And these Puranas, they started talking not only about post-Mauryan period, but since the beginning of the humanity. Whether it is true or mythical is secondary, but Puranas started contemplating the Indian society, Indian economy, and Indian political system. And they started talking about different kingdoms and who are the lineage, who are the successors, and what is their contribution. In the process, we come to the conclusion that these Puranas, even though historians cannot take as it is, but still while reading Puranas, you can come to the idea that this kind of society, this kind of economic system was prevalent in post-Mauryan period. In this way, the grammar related text, what is the first systematic grammar? Who was the person who gave the first systematic Sanskrit grammar? Around 450 BC itself, one sage has given Panini. What is the book name? Ashtadhyayi. Now, Ashtadhyayi was the book earlier in 450 BC. Now, on top of Ashtadhyayi, during Shunga time period, Patanjali has written a commentary on Panini's Ashtadhyayi that became Mahabhashya. And this book is also gives some details about the contemporary dynasty, Shunga dynasty. And Shungas, Pushyamitra Shunga himself belonged to Brahmana. And as a result, whatever the Vedic practices up to 500 BC were there, they got set back during Mauryan time period or Mahajanapada time period. Once again, those practices are going to be revived. Like during later Vedic time period, Ashwamedha sacrifices were performed to ensure the power and stability of the state. Similarly, Pushyamitra Shunga is also about to perform Ashwamedha sacrifice. So the revival of Brahmanical tradition also we see during this time period. And this we see in these Mahabhashya, Patanjali, Puranas. When it comes to Prakrit, we have different texts like Hala. In Shatavahana time period, there was a ruler called Hala, Ghada Saptasati. Ghada Saptasati. And now, when it comes to Pali and Prakrit, Buddhist texts, we are going to see Jatakas. And when it comes to Tamil language, Sangam texts. When it comes to Prakrit and Pali, they are not only writing about Buddhism, and Buddhism not only adopted Prakrit and Pali as the medium of communication. Now Buddhists, they also started using Sanskrit, also the language. And this Sanskrit language became important medium even for the Buddhists also to write their historiographies or the biographies. Because of this, we get some of the Buddhist texts also Sanskrit, in Sanskrit language we find. And this is the difference. Now by 500 to 1000 BC or 100 BC or 100 AD, in Buddhism also we are going to see the reformation. Because of this, in Buddhist tradition itself, some people wanted to use Pali, the earlier language, as the original source of communication. Other sect wanted Sanskrit is the now more dominant language. Let us use the Sanskrit as the medium. And this is the split. In other areas also, we are going to see different split. Finally, Mahayana and Hinayana Buddhism emerged. Particularly, Mahayana patronized Sanskrit language. Because of all these developments, Sanskrit texts are emerging, Prakrit texts are emerging, Pali texts are, even though Prakrit and Pali gradually they are going to die out, only Sanskrit is going to remain. And Tamil language, when it comes to text, when it comes to inscriptions, rulers were giving inscriptions also. These inscriptions, for example, here Hathi Gumpa inscription. This inscription gives details about Kharavela. Shaka ruler Rudradaman has given Girnar inscription. He is Shaka ruler Rudradaman. Now you can see the importance. This side, this is a Prakrit, and this side, Girnar inscription is the first Sanskrit inscription. First Sanskrit inscription. And when it comes to Hathi Gumpa, Prakrit. Shatavahanas also issued some inscriptions. Nashik inscription, Nanegat inscription. And these two inscriptions are also written in Prakrit language. On one hand, Prakrit, Pali languages were still there in the society. Sanskrit is gaining ground. When it comes to inscription level also, Sanskrit first inscription, Rudradaman's Girnar inscription. Sanskrit texts are also becoming very popular. And gradually, the language-wise also, we are seeing various developments. And even the people in Indo-Greek region, northwestern part of India also, they are also going to patronize Buddhism, and they are also going to patronize Indian languages. As a result, some Buddhist text in this Menander, we have seen Menander in Indo-Greek region. Menander, he was Greek, and he attracted towards the Buddhism under the leadership of Nagasena. Menander asked so many questions, and Nagasena answered them. These question and answers were compiled in a book called Milinda Panho. From Indo-Greek side also, we got another reference, Milinda Panho. So these are Indian sources. It talks about Milinda Panho, Menander plus Nagasena. The question and answers about Menander. So in this particular region also we get some other evidence. Please mention up to here. Please note down this. Now this will help you to understand. Now when we fill this table, you will get proper systematic idea. Please note down this. Once it is done, please let me know. Then we are going to fill this. Sanju, is it done? Very good. Now, let us fill this gap. Now, meanwhile, Puranas, Brahmanical tradition is reviving. And when it comes to Brahmanical revival, they are going to revive. Now, let me give this timeline also. Brahmanical revival. 1500 BC to 1000 BC, Rig Veda. 600 BC, later Vedas, Upanishads, and this is also the period Ramayana, Mahabharata also took place. Later Vedas, Upanishads, Aranyakas, Brahmanas, many things are developing. Now by 200 BC, during this time period, Sutra literature. Sutra literature emerged, and for some time period it has taken setback during the time period. Now after 200 BC, 300 AD, all these are Sanskrit. After 200 BC, we are going to see the revival of these traditions in Rig Veda and other Vedas, Upanishads, Brahmanas. They talk about so many dynasties, Ramayana story, Mahabharata story. Now they were started writing in this time period, and in the form of Puranas, Mahabharata, Ramayana, and Sutras later became Dharma Shastras. Puranas, epics, Dharma Shastras, these are the important things. Now when it comes to by 550 AD, this is Gupta time period. By Gupta time period, these things are going to take the final shape. The tradition continues, and whatever we are seeing, the today's final shape, Puranas, epics, and Dharma Shastras, they were not written in a single year by single person. So many people contributed for this development, and so many centuries it has taken. And what they are talking about the earlier Vedic traditions, and they talk about the kingdoms. They talk about the kingdoms that were flourishing during later Vedic time period. This is early Vedic, later Vedic period. And they were talking about the kings who were flourishing during early Vedic and later Vedic time period. And even the common secular literature also, for example, during Gupta time period, Kalidasa. And Kalidasa has written many important Sanskrit books. These Kalidasa stories also, some of the stories of Kalidasa are going to be based on early Vedic tradition, later Vedic tradition. Therefore, once again we are going to see the revival of Brahmanical tradition. The ideas that were flourishing for the past 1000 years, they are going to put into the proper shape that will lead to the final shape of the Sanskrit literature that we are reading today. So this way, Brahmanical revival is going to take place. Now in the process, they talk about the existing scenarios of post-Mauryan period. That is why now you come back to this table. When it comes to Indian literature, Brahmanical for post-Mauryan, sources for post-Mauryan period. Brahmanical literature like Puranas, epics, Dharmashastras. They give some idea about society of post-Mauryan period, economy of post-Mauryan period, urbanization of post-Mauryan period, and religion, and also the rulers of post-Mauryan period. They throw some light on post-Mauryan life. These are some sources. Patanjali. Patanjali's Mahabhashya. And also during Gupta time period, Kalidasa, as I said, Puranas talked about the previous time period, Mahabharata talked about the previous time period, Dharmashastras, they continuously tracking. Similarly, one of the themes of Kalidasa is going to be the post-Mauryan period theme, that is Malavikagnimithram. There was one important book of Kalidasa, that is Malavikagnimithram. It talks about Shunga dynasty. Therefore, this is another important source to understand about Kalidasa, Malavikagnimithram. Puranas, epics, Dharmashastras, Patanjali Mahabhashya, Kalidasa Malavikagnimithram, they give the reference to post-Mauryan period. And they explain about existing Varna system, Ashrama system, economic, urbanization, different social evils, intermixing of people. They all talk about invasion also. They give different details about post-Mauryan period. Next one, Brahmanical, then Buddhist texts. When it comes to Buddhist, Jataka stories. Jatakas also, up to now they were like oral tradition, like Vedas, Rig Veda oral tradition, other Vedas also oral tradition. Later they were put to writing format. Similarly, after Buddha's death, these Jataka stories started propagating. By this time period, they also compiled in the form of Jataka stories, Buddhist. Next, Milinda Panha. Milinda Panha. And now, Tamil texts, Sangam literature. We deal Sangam literature separately. There are different writings, different books. Sangam literature. Now you see, different geographic location is giving different resources for us to understand post-Mauryan time period. Tamil literature provides details about the deep south. And Jataka stories, they talk about middle India like Ujjain, because they talk about so many merchants. And wherever merchants are flowing in Uttarapada, Dakshinapada, they talk about the different geographic location. So northern Gangetic plain they talk about, and also western India, western coast also they talk. Deccan part they also go. they talk about Southeast Asia. So different geographic location and different traditions they talk about. Literary sources. Now next one, foreign sources. When it comes to foreign source, like I said, when these developments are going here, these outside world also keep on observing. The tradition of Megasthenes continued in this part of world. Now Megasthenes Indica. This world utilized this Indica and they started writing their own. For example, Strabo, Pliny, Ptolemy, Arrian, so Diodorus, various people, different people started talking about Indian subcontinent, and this Indian subcontinent, these references, some of these references again, they did not visit India. They were only writing about whatever they know about India without visiting India. What kind of source they get? If they don't visit, that means whatever the previous sources they were having, they used to quote them. Previously, Megasthenes Indica was one reference for them. Earlier, Herodotus was talking something. Before Alexander, Herodotus was talking something about India. They have taken the reference. And at this time period, the Roman Empire also had contacts with India. Trading activities were going on. And through their traders, they used to get some information and they were writing. And there is one book called Periples of the Erythraean Sea. Periples of the Erythraean Sea. So here you write, in foreign sources, you mention these people name, or I will write, just I will make it note down, then I will write down one by one. Periples of the Erythraean Sea, the author is we don't know, but it talks about the trading routes between India and Roman Empire. This way, these people, they talked about India, and Periples of Erythraean Sea also talk about India. And particularly, for example, Pliny, he says that Roman gold is going towards India. Roman gold is drained to India. Because at this time, the arts and crafts were very strong in India. They were exporting more than the importing. And this is one of the glorious periods of trade in our Indian history. On these account, we cannot, this is also one of the counterpoint to say that post-Mauryan period is not a dark age. If it is a dark age, our economy should not be progressing. But instead of here, when it comes to post-Mauryan period, we were having very good trade with outside world. We were exporting more than importing, and we were getting in return a lot of gold. That is why the foreign authors like Pliny mentioned that Roman gold is being drained to India. So this shows it is not a dark period, it is one of the vibrant periods in our Indian history. Are you getting? These people are keep on observing this. And these are the important sources to understand post-Mauryan period. Now I will keep writing here. Foreign. You write one by one. Diodorus, Strabo, Pliny, Arrian, Ptolemy, unknown Greek author, but the book name is Periples of Erythraean Sea. Diodorus, Strabo, Pliny, Arrian, Ptolemy, Periples of Erythraean Sea. These many references are there to talk something about post-Mauryan period. Please note down. After this, please let me know. Is it done, Sanju? Done. Very good. Now, Indian sources, foreign sources we have seen. Now, when it comes to archaeological sources, mention about archaeological sources. When it comes to archaeological sources, as I said, inscriptions, and here Greeks issued so many coins. The Greeks issued so many coins, and for the first time, up to now during Mahajanapada time period, and Mauryans also issued some coins. What is the terminology we use? What is the specific type of coins, Sanju? What we call them? During Mahajanapada time period, coins were issued. Punch-marked coins. Punch-marked coins, that is one of the important archaeological evidence. But one of the limitations of punch-marked coins, they don't mention any year name or any ruler name. Which ruler has given those coins and during which time period those coins were given. But one of the advantages of Indo-Greek coins is they mentioned about the year also, they mentioned about the image of the ruler also. In one way, it helps us to understand in this time period, these rulers were there. And we could easily corroborate who are the Indian contemporaries also at that point of time. Indo-Greek coins, and Satavahanas also issued coins. Shakas also issued coins. These coins also another important source. Another source, monuments. For example, Sanchi monument, stupas, Sanchi stupa, Amaravati stupa, that is another important. Around the same time period, so many sculptures developed. Gandhara sculpture, Madura sculpture, Amaravati sculpture. Sculpture gives some kind of evidence about religious beliefs, social beliefs, and also the kings who were there. For example, in some places, Kushana headless statue was discovered, and it shows the dressing pattern of Kanishka. That was Kanishka statue. It gives the dressing style of Kanishka. In this way, archaeology will help us to understand further about post-Mauryan time period. Inscriptions, coins, monuments. When it comes to inscriptions, Satavahanas inscription like Nashik inscription, Nanegot inscription. Kharavela inscription, Hati Gumpa inscription. When it comes to Shaka inscription, Rudradaman, 1 Girnar inscription. Similarly, for Kushana time period also, there were some inscriptions. So, Kushana inscriptions. Rabatak. Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, Rabatak inscription, it provides details about Kushana period. Coins. Indo-Greek coins, Shaka coins, Satavahana coins, monuments like stupas, sculptures, caves. During this time period, many caves were excavated, like Ajanta caves, Baja, Kaniheri, Ajanta, Kaniheri. Sculptures, Gandhara, Amaravati, Madura, schools of art. In Gandhara, Greek influence, and Madura, indigenous, Amaravati, indigenous. Stupas, Sanchi Stupa, Barhut Stupa, different stupas, literary tradition, archaeological sources. Now you see these many things are there. Now when question comes about sources, you take for Mauryan time period, what are the sources? Post-Mauryan and later post-Mauryan, Guptas. You have to give all of them. When it comes to 15 marker or 20 marker, you may not write all these evidences because you have to mention about Mauryans also, post-Mauryan also, Guptas also, and before Mahajanapadas also. You use some of these examples. When we are studying about post-Mauryan, we try to read exhaustively, but when it comes in as part of ancient India, then you have to mention about all of them important examples. Sanju, written up to here? All right. Now, this is Mahajanapada. Yesterday also we have seen this. This is how Magadha Empire initially, later all these territories were conquered. Politically, now you see the differences. Politically, the kingdoms' names are changing. But when it comes to culture of India, it's a continuous evolution. When it comes to before 500, early Vedic period, now you see this, in early Vedic period, this is the area on which river Battle of 10 Kings took place. Sanju, could you remember? During early Vedic time period, there was a battle called Battle of 10 Kings. Able to recollect? River Purushni. Yes, River Purushni, Battle of 10 Kings. There we see a tribe called Bharata tribe. Now you see how society is getting connected. Somewhere in 1500 BC, whatever this tradition, at that time there was no writing also, only oral tradition. But these stories are there in the society for very long time. Bharata and this tribal, when it comes to these stories, we are going to see the same stories are reflected in 400 AD in the form of Kalidasa writings also. in the form of Kalidasa writings. He also mentioned Abhignana Shakuntalam. He has written a book, Abhignana Shakuntalam. It talks about Bharata. So it talks about this particular story. Similarly, when it comes to later Vedic time period, Kuru, Panchala, Matsya, these are all even during later Vedic time period also, where Mahabharata took place, where Ramayana took place. Now the same story, these are the stories before 600 BC. In the form of oral tradition, they survived the Indian society in the minds of Indians. Now by post-Mauryan time period, after 200 BC, they are going to see the similar type of ideas in a different form. And whatever the ideas they were having, they were talking about in the form of Puranas. In Puranas, what they talk? How Mahabharata kingdoms or Mahabharata rulers, the lineage of them. Ramayana and Rama's lineage. Kshatriya clan and also solar dynasty, lunar dynasty. When it comes to Ramayana, Lord Rama, he belongs to solar dynasty. Mahabharata story, it talks about lunar dynasty. You see this, how even though time is passing, but the old traditions are revived in a different form and they were put to the writing. And they started recording it. Puranas, in a sense, they are giving our history. Whether how far it is true, how far it is factual, that is debatable question. But some kind of historiography, some kind of historical tradition emerged in the form of Puranas. The meaning of Puranas also, how they started looking the backward, the old stories. They created a sense of history in the Indian psyche. Puranas, they started writing in the post-Mauryan period. Now you see how important it is to understand post-Mauryan period. And Ramayana, Mahabharata, epics also, they started writing in post-Mauryan period. By Gupta time period, they have taken the final shape, and those things today also we are reading because it has taken the final shape during Gupta time period. But the foundation laid during post-Mauryan period. But the story is the early Vedic stories and the later Vedic stories. That is how after post-Mauryan, we are going to see the same tradition, whatever is happening, apart from some new elements. Now, in post-Mauryan period, we are going to see this. Achaemenid Empire during Mahajanapada time period. Later, it is replaced by Alexander. After Alexander, Seleucus Nicator. And after Seleucus Nicator, we call these people as Indo-Greeks. Now, after Indo-Greeks, it is replaced by Shakas. And after Shakas, replaced by Kushanas. Only whenever new people come in this area, the culture is going to be enriched further. When it comes to Achaemenid Empire, now here this is Prakrit and this is Aramaic. A new type of script emerged, that is Kharoshthi script. When Greek will come, Greek script will add. Now here, this is the early Vedic time period. In early Vedic time period, the Brahmanical gods or the Vedic gods more popular. Now these Vedic gods, when Achaemenid Empire reaches here, these Vedic gods along with Avestan gods or Zoroastrian gods. Now when Greek will come, Greek gods also will add here. Now when post-Mauryan time period, we see Gandhara sculpture. And in Gandhara sculpture, what we are going to see? In Gandhara sculpture, they are going to represent the ideas of all the religions. Hinduism and Zoroastrianism and Greek gods, and on top of it, Buddhism. Gandhara School of Art, they talk about Buddhism, but you will find the elements of other religions also. Because in this area, these many interactions are taking place, you are going to see the intermixing. And when it comes to Madura region, the Madura region is far away from the northwestern part of India, considerably. Because of this, the influence of these areas will be less here. And when it comes to Amaravati, this is even far. That's why you will see more indigenous type of ideas in this part. And here, more of indigenous, but little influence. But in this part, more influence of this geographic location. But today, these areas were not part of Indian subcontinent. That's why we calling them as foreign influence. Let us assume if Indian subcontinent or Indian country is up to here, then that will also become Indian. But throughout history, this is naturally, these barriers are there, mountains, and naturally up to these boundaries, every king, whoever wants to become a universal monarch, they imagined up to this natural frontier. That's why in this frontier, every king wanted to protect this natural frontier. Whoever were weak, they could not stop the invasions. This is very porous boundary. Here, there is a pass called Khyber Pass. And through this, whether Aryans' migration took place through the same route, Achaemenid Empire reached this part, same route. Greeks, Alexander reached here, again same route. Later, Indo-Greeks, same route. Shakas, same route. Kushanas, same route. Hunas, in Gupta time period, same route. Turks, they who established Delhi Sultanate in medieval time period, same route. Mughals, after Delhi Sultanate, when Mughals came, again same route. This is porous boundary. This boundary is defining the fate of the main Indian subcontinent continuously. For the first time, when it comes to Aryan migrations, we don't know what is the literary source, what is happening in this part. That is why we start from the Vedic period. We got references from the Vedic people only in the form of writings. But we don't know what these people were doing. Only archaeology only gives that they were living in basic primitive life. But by post-Mauryan, in this particular area, in this particular geographic location, so many developments took place. Languages developed. Prakrit language, Pali language, Sanskrit language. And these languages were utilized for writing so many writings. Inscriptions were there, texts were there. Now they started talking more and more about these developments. That is why we get so much information by post-Mauryan period about what is happening in this. And this continuously going to evolve. By Gupta time period, we know more about. By Turkish time period, we will learn even more details. So that is how, as the society is changing here, the way we see this part also keep on changing throughout our history. Here, this is just for explanation I am giving, nothing to write. Is it clear? Sanju and Kanchan, could you follow this? Because this is the same story we are going to often repeat. All right? Very good. Now, one by one we will see. First, you give the heading Shunga dynasty. Now we are going to see one by one which dynasty has contributed for what. This will help you in understanding one by one rulers, and through that you are going to construct different developments. Shunga dynasty. You give the timeline. 185 BC. This side Mauryan, and this is Sunga period. Up to 75 BC is considered as Sunga period. At this, Brihadrada killed by Pushyamitra Shunga. Pushyamitra Shunga. And it is considered Pushyamitra Shunga was there (185 to 151 BC). For some people we have the timeline, for some people we don't have timeline. And this timeline also is debatable, whether exactly what is the nature. But around this time period, Pushyamitra Shunga was there. And we will study only few people. While studying these people, we come to know that how politics were there, how society was there, how economy was there. Pushyamitra Shunga, 185 to 151 BC. Now, during his time period, you make a small map. And this North India is enough. Pushyamitra Shunga. Indo-Greeks were there. His contemporary is Patanjali. He has written Mahabhashya. This Mahabhashya is commentary on Panini's Ashtadhyayi. So this means Sanskrit revival. Sanskrit revival. And Pushyamitra performed. Pushyamitra, he was a Brahman. He performed 2 Ashwamedha sacrifices. Two Ashwamedha sacrifices. And you see this? These Ashwamedha sacrifices were the practice of later Vedic time period. In the same period, in the same geography, geography is same. That is why I am keep on giving the India map continuously. This is the same geographic location where Mahabharata took place, where Ramayana took place. And this is the same location now Pushyamitra Shunga is also ruling. And naturally, they try to revive the Brahmanical tradition, the glorious past. Today also, suppose different ideological politicians, different politics, different parties follow different ideology. And according to their ideology, they used to bring back the past glory of that particular ideology. Same is the case now, Brahmanical ideology, and they look back, and when was the glorious period of Brahmanical ideology, they used to revive those glorious periods. Mahabharata happened in this period, in this geographic location, Ramayana also. Now in the same geographic location, in the same land, now Pushyamitra Shunga also revived the old traditions. These were the later Vedic traditions. Our Indian history is all about talking about the past and reviving the past and adding some new elements in the present context. Particularly after post-Mauryan time period, we are going to see the same themes, same stories. When Prakrit was the language, they write in Prakrit language. When Sanskrit is dominant, they write the same story in Sanskrit language. And later, as of now, there is no regional languages. For example, like Odisha, Odia, or Marathi, Gujarati, Kannada, Telugu, Tamil is also just emerging. That's why it has its own literature. But when it comes to other vernacular literature, we don't have, as of now, vernacular languages. But when vernacular language will come, again they also talk about the same, these Mahabharata, Ramayana stories. So theme is same thing, but language is going to, means are going to different, but story is going to be, content is same thing. Now we are going to see that a tradition in post-Mauryan period onwards. These Ashwamedha sacrifices were very common during later Vedic time period, now revived. Brahmanical tradition revived. And there were battles with Indo-Greeks. These Indo-Greeks were termed as Yavanas in Patanjali book. Yavanas, Patanjali works. Now probably in order to counter the attacks of Indo-Greeks, he might have performed Ashwamedha sacrifice also. So this is in the context, in those contexts when Indo-Greeks were invading, now they are coming. Pushyamitra Shunga, he was trying to counter them, stop their movement. And in fact, his own son, Agnimitra, also fought against in this particular wars and battles. Now you see this same geographical location, only rulers are going to change in the later time period. One example is when Hunas will come, here Guptas will stay. In Gupta time period, Skandagupta, there was one prince, Skandagupta. Skandagupta fight against, same again, in the same location, invading forces, but names of these people will change. Hunas, Skandagupta. Now you come to medieval time period, Prudhviraj Chauhan. Prudhviraj Chauhan based here, and he is going to counter with Muhammad Ghori. Muhammad Ghori also, from where he comes, again in the same location. Later, when Lodi, Ibrahim Lodi is there, again, his based rule is Delhi, Agra. Again, whom he is going to counter? Babar. From where he is coming? From the same geographic location. Only names are changing, and by the time, religions also will change. So it is not wise to see through the religious prism. It is always, when it comes to political dimension, we have to see geo-strategic locations and geopolitics. We call it as geopolitics. Based on geography, the political or kingdom, the fate of the kingdoms keep on changing based on the geography. No doubt, different religious ideology will keep on changing. Now you see this, in post-Mauryan time period, Indo-Greeks, what is the religion of Indo-Greeks? The Greek gods, they were following Greek religion, you can say. And these Greek religions, once they come in contact with Buddhism, one of the important rulers of Indo-Greeks, Menander, he is going to convert to Buddhism. Because Buddhism is a dominant theme at this point of time. And Buddhism dominated the ruler. Gradually, this area is going to become dominated by Islam. Later, many rulers are going to accept Islam as the religion. That is why, as the time passes, religious ideas will change, but politics remains the same, geography remains the same. It is not correct to see the prism through the prism of Hinduism versus Islam as a communal clashes. But again, for the political gains, this Hinduism versus Muslim communalism is being played. But if we understand history in this perspective, it's all about the geographic location. Whatever may be the religious ideology, it doesn't matter. And if not Islam, some other religion will be there. And again, it doesn't mean that some other religious people will not attack Indian subcontinent. When before Islam, it doesn't mean before Islam there was no attacks. Again, its attacks were there. So religion is only matter of faith. It will keep on change from time period to time period. Maybe after 1,000 years from now, some other new kind of ideology may come, but this will remains the same. In this area, new people will come. In this area, new people will come. That ideology also will change, but still they will keep fighting. Because this is the nature of this location, and that is why we should be very strong. As long as empires were very strong, these areas were very peaceful. And whenever this area is weak, this area is going to be very, very vulnerable. Even today also, same thing is happening with Pakistan and Afghanistan. That is why we should be very strong economically. Battles, Yavanas, Patanjali's work, he considered these people Yavanas. And we are going to see in Puranas also a new term for these invaders, Mleshchas. Mleshcha. Foreigners, Yavanas, foreigners. Foreigners means through the prism of Brahmanical text at this point of time, whatever Brahmanical texts are mentioning, they mentioned these people as Mleshchas. It's not only about Greeks, it is the common term for Greeks also, Shakas also, Kushan also, whoever is coming from this particular point of time. Ashwamedha sacrifices, revival of the Brahmanical traditions. Pushyamitra Shunga. After Pushyamitra Shunga, Agnimitra will come. We don't know exact timeline. And about Agnimitra, this Agnimitra was glorified in Kalidasa's work. Kalidasa's Malavikagnimitram. Malavikagnimitra. Kalidasa was living in Gupta time period. Again you see, during Gupta time period, they were looking back the glorious period of Brahmanical tradition. Agnimitra has become the theme of his play Malavikagnimitra. Agnimitra. Then Vasumitra, last one. Now, when it comes to Shunga time period, it is also the period when Buddhism is also there. Brahmanism, Buddhism, and Buddhist texts. When it comes to Buddhist texts, it is very natural. If you revive Brahmanical tradition, Brahmanical literature will glorify you. Very common. In Buddhist text, Ashoka contributed more for the propagation of Buddhism. That's why Ashoka is glorified. But when it comes to Shunga period, this Mauryan dynasty was replaced by Shunga, and Pushyamitra Shunga was portrayed or depicted in negative light. And you can see the ideological battle. The communal clashes. This is what, in those times, this is the communal clash. Buddhism versus Brahmanism. And these Brahmanical texts, that is why you will see Brahmanical texts, Mauryans or Ashoka, Mauryans were depicted in negative light. Puranas, now Puranas, they are writing Puranas in post-Mauryan period. Puranas talk about Mauryans, and Puranas depicted Mauryans as Shudras because they were not reviving, they are not following the Vedic traditions. And they were patronizing the non-orthodox religion, heterodox religions like Ajivaka, Buddhism, Jainism. Puranas depicted Mauryans as Shudras. Buddhist texts depicted Pushyamitra Shunga as a persecutor of Buddhists. Persecutor of Buddhists. But reality is archaeological. Now you see, literature, it is the literature war. It is newspapers when two ideologies are there in the present circumstance. One newspaper supports one ideology, another newspaper supports another ideology. Both newspapers will literally fight. They will highlight the negative points in the other opponent, and the other one look for the negatives of the other opponents. So it's a like literature war, ideological war. Now same is happening here also. But now who will resolve the problem? What is, now we did not leave. Today at least we can have other resource where is some neutral newspaper. If you read the neutral newspaper, you may get some idea what is reality. But this happened hundreds of years ago. How do we know that what is the reality? Whether it is true, or is it true, or is there something else? The archaeology is another. Archaeological sources at least give some idea about the reality of this time period. Now, archaeological sources are giving some other information. It is the same Shunga kingdom where Sanchi Stupa is enlarged. Sanchi Stupa enlarged. And when it comes to Buddhist text, they say that there were 84,000 stupas. 84,000 stupas Ashoka constructed, and these 84,000 stupas were destroyed by Pushyamitra Shunga. But first of all, whether Ashoka constructed 84,000 stupas itself is a questionary one. It's a questionable one. And if 84,000 stupas were there, at least some should be remained. When some important stupas were there, 84,000 is not a small number. Everywhere in Gangetic Valley, you should be able to see these many stupas. But archaeology is not identifying these many stupas. No doubt Ashoka might have constructed some stupas, but these many, again, exaggeration. And Pushyamitra Shunga destroying these stupas, again, exaggeration. On top of it, in the same Shunga dynasty, Sanchi Stupa was enlarged. That means patronaged. If they are persecuting, why Sanchi Stupa is still remaining in India? Again, so this is what, wherever literature exaggerates, historians should look for archaeological sources. Archaeological source is giving this reference. And this conflict remains the same. Now at this point of time, Buddhism versus Brahmanism. And after some time you are going to see Hinduism versus Islam. And Christianity versus Islam. In West Asia you will see crusades. People are going to fight in the name of religion. Christians versus Islam in crusades. It is not unique to Indian subcontinent alone. It is almost happening every part of the globe. Like in Buddhism, Mahayana, Hinayana. Within Buddhism, they are fighting. Similarly, in Christianity, Protestants versus Catholics, they literally fight. They were killing each other. When it comes to in Hinduism also, in South India, in early medieval time period, we are going to see Alvars and Nayanars, that is Bhakti movement. Shiva versus Vishnu. Again, we are going to see for some time bitter rivalry between whether Shiva is great or Vishnu is great. Within Hinduism conflicts, within Buddhism conflicts, within Jainism also, Shwetambaras and Digambaras conflict. Within Islam, Shia versus Sunni. Within Christianity, Protestants versus Catholics. In every religion, you see these schisms. And this is where the political ideology, in present context, the Constitution of India, it gives the solution to such differences. These religions are private affairs. You follow whatever you want to believe. And it is also okay if you don't believe anything also. But don't create a law and order issue. You believe whatever you want to do, but don't create trouble for the other person who is different from you, who is following different religion from you. That is where the concept of secularism emerged. And at this point of time, ideology of religion is dominant one. Shungas, they revived the Brahmanical tradition. They portrayed in good light in Brahmanical texts, in Puranas also, in other texts also, in Kalidasa works also, in Patanjali works also, in Puranas also. When it comes to Buddhism, Pushyamitra Shunga and Shungas were portrayed in a negative light, but archaeology is giving different perspective that he did not persecute, probably for the sake of politics. He mentioned in Sagala, Sialkot, Pushyamitra Shunga says one particular decree, one order, royal order, that if someone brings the head of Buddhist monk, the person who brings the head of the Buddhist monk will be rewarded. And what is that? You can say this. First of all, whether it is true or not is question. Second part is, if it is true, then this party is ruled by Indo-Greeks. Now Indo-Greeks are started patronizing Buddhist monks. And if at all there is no patronage in this kingdom, Buddhist monks will go to the neighboring kingdom. And this neighboring kingdom is considered as enemy kingdom. Now, maybe in that context, he would have given this decree that if Buddhist monks residing here and those whoever traitors, in the present context, sedition, traitors, these are the terms we use in the present context. If you go to Pakistan and if you share India's secrets, you become traitor. At this time, if Buddhist monks are roaming freely here and going to the neighboring country, sharing the secrets, they become the traitors. In that context also, politically, administratively, this kind of decree might be possible. As long as it is for administration purpose, we have to see, we have to differentiate between administrative activity but the overall policy of the Shungas. No doubt, for example, Ashoka, he personally became Buddhist monk, but he did not persecute the other religions. Same is the case, Pushyamitra, personally he is a Brahman, personally he followed Brahmanical tradition, but it doesn't mean he persecuted the other religious faiths. Literature is saying he persecuted, but archaeology is giving some other reference. You see in this light, because this conflict between Buddhism and Brahmanism, we are going to see in different areas. When it comes to Pushyamitra Shunga and Shunga dynasty, these are the developments. Later, tomorrow we will see Indo-Greeks. And when it comes to today itself, now we will finish, 5 minutes it will take. When it comes to Indo-Greeks, Menander, he was one of the great conquerors of his time period. He entered into this part. And according to the Greek and Roman sources, he reached up to Ayodhya. he reached up to Ayodhya, and he reached up to, Indo-Greeks reached up to Chittor. Now you see, it shows the continuous fights between this kingdom and this kingdom. And Menander was pursued by Nagasena, and the dialogue between Menander and Nagasena was written in Milinda. Panho. Milinda Panho. Nagasena, Menander, Milinda Panho. So this is how Indo-Greeks were living here. This is how Shungas were there. For Shungas, what is the ideology? And for Indo-Greeks, what is the ideology? And after some time period, now during Pushyamitra Shunga time period, we are seeing battles, Ashwamedha sacrifice. After some time, we are going to see the diplomatic relations. Here, Vidisha, Besnagar, Sialkot, Greeks. Here, Shungas. It seems for Shungas, Central India or Vidisha is important place. When Mauryans were ruling, Shungas were having the control of Central India, and when Mauryas were removed, Pataliputra also became the capital. So it seems probably Shungas were having Pataliputra as one capital and Besnagar, Vidisha region. That is why Sanchi Stupa is also located nearby only. Sanchi Stupa. After Pushyamitra Shunga, after Agnimitra, there was one ruler called Bhagabhadra. Mention this. Bhagabhadra. And around, we don't know exact time period, around this time period. Some accounts give 1142 83 BCE. And around this time period, there was a ruler called Anti-Alcidas, Takshila. Anti-Alcidas. And he was Greek ruler. When Menander was there, this is the area. When Alcidas, Takshila was the capital, he sent ambassador. Similarly, like Seleucus Nicator sent ambassador Megasthenes to the court of Chandragupta Maurya, Megasthenes. Similarly, Anti-Alcidas sent one ambassador. His name is Heliodorus. Heliodorus. Now, Heliodorus, he gave one pillar inscription. This pillar inscription is having Garuda capital. Bhagabhadra was the ruler, Shunga ruler. Initially, Pushyamitra Shunga was there, Menander and some other ruler, they were fighting. After some time, stability established. Now, ambassador level exchanges. Chandragupta Maurya, Seleucus, Niketor also fought. And after some time, peace treaties, they established. Now, this Garuda pillar, in this inscription, he says, now Heliodorus, now you see this. These are Greek, they were believing in Greek gods. Now, Heliodorus considered himself as Bhagavata. Heliodorus declared himself as Bhagavata. And what is this Bhagavata? It is associated with Hinduism, Bhagavatism. And Bhagavatism concept popularized Dashavatara concept of Vishnu. And it popularized, Bhagavatism popularized Bhakti. Now you see, in Buddhism, Buddha is being now seen as a god. Jataka stories. Now you are going to see some kind of parallel between Hinduism and Buddhism also. In Shunga time period, the revival of Brahmanical tradition is taking place. On one hand, sacrifices like Ashwamedha sacrifice is going on. On the other hand, it has changed its pattern from violent sacrifices to peaceful Bhakti tradition, Bhakti movement. Heliodorus, foreigner, he accepted this as his religion. Now you see how it is changing. In ancient periods, whoever comes from this side, after some time, they will accept. Menander accepted Buddhism. Buddhism took birth in India. And when it comes to Heliodorus, he accepted Hinduism. In another way, he accepted Hinduism. And again, Hinduism took roots in India. Whoever comes from outside, after some time, they accept Indian traditions, Indian language, Indian religion, Indian way of life. And also they bring certain ideas from the outside. Those ideas, Indians also accepted them freely. Whatever tradition, whatever military tactic they brought, Indians adopted. Whatever dressing pattern they brought, Indians adopted. Kushanas, Central Asian people, they are going to bring a different style of Buddha, different style of dressing pattern. Buddha is depicted in those dressing. Greeks were depicted in a different dressing pattern. Buddha in Gandhara school of art depicted with those garments. Indians also accepted the outside world. Outside world also accepted Indian world. This is how you have to see. No doubt wars and battles is one of the phenomena of history, but cultural interaction is another major trend. That continuous cultural interaction is only surviving the Indian civilization. Menander accepted Buddhism, Heliodorus accepted Hinduism. This is how the outsiders are accepting Indian religions. Here many prelims bits are also there. You revise them often and you see the context also. Particularly Menander, Nagasena, Milinda Panho prelims bit is there. Heliodorus, Base Nagar pillar inscription, Bhagavata, important bit is there. But when it comes to history optional, you should have this idea that what is happening here, how the revival of Brahmanical tradition is taking place, how Buddhism. Now you see, Buddhism is also getting royal patronage, Brahmanism also getting royal patronage. This is how. Later we are going to see Satavahanas also, Kalinga. Now it is very interesting, when Brahmanism is flourished here, Buddhism is flourishing in western part and northwest. In eastern part, Kalinga, Kharavela is going to patronage Jainism. So Jainism also got royal patronage, Buddhism also got royal patronage, Brahmanism also got royal patronage. Now every religion is getting royal patronage. That is how they are surviving for a very long time. Sanju and Kanchan, clear up to here? So please revise the sources of post-Mauryan time period and also Shunga time period, Shungas and Indo-Greeks. Tomorrow we will continue from Shungas. We will see Satavahanas, Karavelas in India, and when it comes to northwest, Shakas and Kushanas. We will cover that, and particularly one day we will give for Sangam age. We have to see Sangam age particularly, because it has its own importance for the rest of the period, Sangam age. Tomorrow we will continue, all right?